A basic dictionary definition gets us halfway to explaining a rotary engine. A rotary motion is essentially something revolving around a center axis. In this case, a triangular rotor is spinning around an output shaft, which leads us to the next question. So, what is a rotary engine? The rotary engine has one thing in common with the traditional piston engine: internal combustion, and that's about it. Unlike a conventional internal combustion engine, which has cylinder banks, rods, a crankshaft, and pistons, a rotary engine consists of these three essential parts: a barrel-shaped housing, triangular rotor output shaft. There are other components, like an intake and outlet port and spark plugs to ignite the fuel. But a rotary engine only has these three major components, which is part of what makes it so attractive. In trying to answer the question, how does a rotary engine work? The easiest way to explain it is as follows. Imagine a side-on diagram in the shape of a barrel. Inside the barrel-shaped oval combustion housing, there are 2 or 3 triangular rotors. The open spaces between the rotors and the housing are known as chambers. As with a typical car, fuel and air are mixed and ignited by a spark plug, moving the rotors around a fixed output shaft. The rotors and output shaft are connected, which supplies power to the wheels. Every other engine configuration, including the inline, V, VR, and W configurations, use what we know as a traditional piston. The main difference between rotary engines is in the cooling department. Oil cooling. This method is most commonly used in mass production, and it works. As you can imagine, rotary engine cars require a lot more oil than a piston car. There's a lot more friction, which requires more oil. This is particularly tricky, considering that there has to be a tight seal between the triangular rotors and the walls of the combustion chamber. Charge cooling. In this setup, the engine uses induction air to cool down the triangular rotors. It's not a perfect solution, as engines prefer cooler air when it comes to combustion. Cooling via ambient air. This is the same basic method as above, but instead of using the intake system, it uses a separate port that blows ambient air directly onto the rotors. Having a separate opening is not ideal either. It leads to even more oil loss on an already oil-thirsty engine configuration. A rotary engine's specifications can be misleading. It's small, but it packs a punch. Well, at least in the horsepower department. The last production car to use a rotary engine was the Mazda RX-8. The engine specs for the RX-8 are as follows: 1.3-liter 232 horsepower at 8,500 RPM, 159 lb-ft at 5,500 RPM. As you can see from the specifications above, you can't rely on engine displacement to estimate the power output. A 1.3-liter traditional piston engine would struggle to deliver 100 HP, but a similarly sized rotary engine packs a 232 HP punch. And without the help of forced induction, the low torque output is also a mainstay of the rotary motor.